Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. I think I've mentioned this before, but this is one of those weeks where I was prepping for one story, and yet I've got to tell another. Yes, we all knew that the Morgan Wallen album bomb, that was coming, about where I expected to, given that I finally found some consistent streaming numbers. But outside of country, there's seemingly one song that came out of nowhere that took over everything, and I'll admit caught me off guard. And you know what? I'm not about to dance around this point. Debuting at number 1, Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo. I'll talk more about the circumstances around how this song got big a little bit later on, but make no mistake, this is legitimately huge, dominant on streaming, on YouTube, on sales, and while of course radio is chronically late to the party, it is surging there too. This could well be a long-time hit. And the last time I was talking about Olivia Rodrigo, she had a song on High School Musical, the series. The fact that she got this sort of momentum for her debut single off of her upcoming debut EP, that is something to note here. Now again, I'll be digging more into the song much later on, and I do want to stress that the number 1 this week was kind of weak and was able to be unseated pretty easily, but it did break past Mood by 24K Golden featuring Ian Dior, which slid down to number 2 because it had losses across the board, especially in losing that top spot on the radio. Then we got Positions by Ariana Grande sliding down to number 3, which took losses and just has not been able to move further on the radio. But let's be real, it's not like Blinding Lights by The Weeknd, it was going to make any sort of significant moves, as it slid down to number 4, even as its sales are pretty stable, and the radio has been slow to get rid of it. No surprise there. Then we got Go Crazy by Chris Brown and Young Thug at number 5. I mean, thank the radio for that, and no one else. And following up, we got Levitating by Dua Lipa featuring DaBaby at number 6, which didn't really have a great week, but still has that radio run. That's why it's got forward momentum. Kept it above Holy by Justin Bieber featuring Chance the Rapper, which slid down to number 7, mostly because of sales losses. I mean, it's radio peak, it might be on the downswing eventually, but it's somewhat holding for now, and that exposes us to Bang by H.E.R. at number 8, where it did not have a great sales week, but the radio still likes it. Joy. Then we got 2 songs I'm a little bit surprised to see this high. Thanks to the album bomb and a strong streaming performance, we've got Wasted on You by Morgan Wallen debuting at number 9, and then riding some legit huge streaming, Good Days by SZA hit number 10. I mean, radio, you can get on board with this at any time. This might be a bona fide hit. It certainly sounds really damn good. Now, where things got a lot more interesting for me came in our losers and dropouts here, because while you would expect a bunch of them for an album bomb as per usual, Morgan Wallen's album bomb was more in crossover country music, and that's gonna hit a different set of songs than when, say, hip-hop or trap or R&B or even pop gets caught up in that cycle. So a lot of our big departures this week, alongside Watermelon Sugar by Harry Styles, which is exiting naturally, all of them wound up as country songs, with Happy Anywhere by Blake Shelton featuring Gwen Stefani, Pretty Heart by Parker McCollum, which had a better run than I was expecting, and Ain't Always a Cowboy with John Party. Now, of course, it's a little bit more scattered in our losers, mostly because there's a lot of them and there are a bunch of 2020 songs that are getting rotated out, but in country, we thankfully have Champagne Night by Lady A sliding down to 53, Big Big Plans by Chris Lane at 59, Love You Like I Used To by Russell Dickerson at 60, Forever After All by Luke Combs at 67, Beers and Sunshine by Darius Rucker at 77, Down to 1 by Luke Bryan at 82, Just the Way by Parmalee and Blanco Brown at 87, and The Good Ones by Gabby Barrett at 89. Then we had the gains that were sliding off from last week. Mr. Right Now by 21 Savage, Metro Boomin and featuring Drake at 65, Take You Dancing by Jason Derulo at 72, Monsters by All Time Low featuring Black Bear and Demi Lovato at 81, Golden by Harry Styles at 85, Bichota by Karol G at 88, So Done by Kid Laroi at 94, and sadly Midnight Sky by Miley Cyrus losing it all down to 98. Along with Prisoner with Dua Lipa dropping pretty hard to 73. Kind of a shame, I wanted that to be a hit. Then we had new arrivals and returns that were losing. Anyone by Justin Bieber down to 22, and Moonwalking in Calabasas by DDG dropping down to 99, and then a bunch of the 2020 hits getting rotated out, as I said, with Kings and Queens by Ava Max at 28, Dynamite by BTS continuing down to 35, Savage Love by Josh 685 and Jason Derulo at 43, and WAP by Cardi B featuring Megan Thee Stallion at 48. Now for the rest here, Monster by Shawn Mendes and Justin Bieber at 55 as it continues to skid. Holiday by Lil Nas X at 58. Throat Baby Go Baby by BRS Cash at 69. Tyler Hero by Jack Harlow at 71. Hit Different by SZA featuring Ty Dolla $ign at 80. And Adderall Corvette by Pop Hunna at 96. So alright, fine, maybe it is more of a conventional album bomb after all, which is reflected when you take a look at a lot of our gains and our returns here, where Morgan Wallen just dominated. Again, I'm still kind of surprised he's doing this well. In the returns, we had Cover Me Up back at 52 and Livin' the Dream at 74. And when it comes to the gains, More Than My Hometown at 16, Seven Summers is at 18, Somebody's Problem is at 26, and Still Going Down is at 45. Well, outside of that, I already mentioned Good Days, but there's only other two pickups. Back in Blood by Pooh Shiesty featuring Lil Durks at 78, and I'll admit I'm kind of surprised this picked up off the debut, and Save Your Tears by The Weeknd, which is continuing to find traction up to 21. I mean, it looks like it's being set for a real run this year, and it's not going to get stifled like Blinding Lights like In Your Eyes was, so not too bad. But since we are on the topic of the Morgan Wallen album bomb, here are the songs that fell below the top 40 and will not qualify under my rules for either the best or the worst of the week. Wonderin' Bout the Wind at 93, This Bar at 92, Only Thing That's Gone featuring Chris Stapleton, yeah, this one was close to being among the best, Outlaw with Ben Burgess at 86, Your Bartender at 84, Whiskeyed My Way at 83, More Surprised Than Me at 66, Dangerous at 62, 865 at 46, so was this one, it's actually close to my best, funnily enough. Yeah, so you got all that? Good, because we still have a decent number of new arrivals here. Guys, we're going to start off with number 100, Bust It by Erica Banks.
Bust it, is you, fuck it, 2 shots, fuck it.
You know, of the songs that I expected to blow up off of TikTok, this is one that kind of caught me a bit off guard, but I guess it shouldn't have. Erica Banks is an up-and-coming rapper who was already signed with this bassy flip of Nelly's Hot in Here, proving that, yeah, the 2000s revival is really kicking into gear, especially on the charts, but once you get past that, it's hard not to feel like this is a pretty obvious but more blunt and basic Megan Thee Stallion riff that's now following in her way. And you know what, that kind of makes sense, as Erica Banks is also from Texas, she probably shares a lot of influences, and she also connects her bars pretty well, she's a decent enough rapper, but I don't know, it feels like this version leeches out so much of the original sample's energy to feel increasingly leaden for this sort of strip club vibe, and just winds up a fair bit less fun. I mean, it's not a bad song, and I know where it'll play, and it'll probably go off there, but it's not all that interesting. I'm not really hearing how this rises above average. Unlike number 97, Girl Like Me by Jazmine Sullivan featuring
What you asked, I would give. It ain't right how these hoes be winning.
Okay, full disclosure, I'm really surprised that we got 2 Jazmine Sullivan songs charting this week. And while I'm not sure either are my favorites coming from that album, stay tuned on my main channel and on the Pulse, where I'll be talking about that very shortly in the next day or two. This is definitely a pretty damn good song, and infinitely better than that song of the same name that the Black Eyed Peas and Shakira charted just last week, and thankfully did not last. But here you got the textured acoustic vibe off a lot of the supple bass, the mournful vocal harmonies interwoven with H.E.R's deeper vocals as they will lament about how their exes have left them for those hoes, and how they might actually have to do the same in order to win over new guys. And I'll say it, there is a real sadness to that whole appeal to this song's concept, what they feel they might have to sacrifice to find love and affection. And both women do a pretty good job selling that sort of angst when it's not their usual lane. And yet, maybe it's just me, it really does feel like it's in the lane of one artist here, in that it's more of a H.E.R. song than anything else. Not saying that Jazmine Sullivan doesn't fit here, but there is a bit of over-singing on her part, and I do think this could have worked a little better with some more restraint. Still, it is a very good song, I do recommend it, but unfortunately, we have to follow it with number 95, Pick Up Your Feelings by Jazmine Sullivan.
Don't leave no pieces. You need to hurry and pick up your feelings while I'm up cleaning.
Yeah, I didn't care for this that much. Mostly because it feels like a Jazmine Sullivan song that exactly satisfies your expectations, providing you had them, and then does absolutely nothing more. Is it a kiss off to an ex that doubles as a flex, that relies upon her admittedly raw delivery to convey its intensity and a lot of her grief, but feels so spare in its production beyond the bass and the cushion of backing vocals that it's not really rising to more or has a particularly strong tune? Look, I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying I've heard this from her for years now. She could have put this out in 2008, and most people probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference, and that's kind of distressing here. And coupled with how it doesn't really fit all that well into the album's themes, well, I mean, it's not the worst off the album, but it's just okay at best. Didn't stick with me. Number 91, Streets by Doja Cat. Admit to being a little bit apprehensive about where Doja Cat's career was going after last year, because it seems like a lot of her momentum has come in fits and spurts, and I was surprised she was pushing another single from that 2019 album. I mean, I'm happy it's not being produced by Dr. Luke this time, and the B2K sample was kind of intriguing going in, and yet even then, this feels like one of her most obvious pivots into R&B to date. The shuddering bass anchoring a lot of the drippy trap hi-hats and the watery guitars, Doja Cat leaning more into lush, love-struck cooing opposite the hook and the one verse, and then on the second verse, she starts rapping more aggressively, and I'm a little bit torn by it, if I gotta be honest. On the one hand, she sells R&B sultriness a fair bit better than I was expecting, but on the other hand, her rap verse also reminds me I like her intensity more in that lane, and it doesn't really mesh with the atmosphere of the rest of the song. Doja Cat can be a lot of fun, and this is her not being as fun. It just leaves me with the feeling that she's yet to really solidify her sound and her approach, which leaves this feeling a little scattered. It's not bad by any means, but definitely a late album single. I'm not sure it's built to last. Number 63, Neon Eyes by Morgan Wallen. You know, the one thing I'm kind of happy about with the Morgan Wallen album bomb is that it mostly comprises the first disc of that double album, which is considerably better and features a few really strong songs, with this being one of the two that I want to highlight here. The smoky textures playing off the acoustics, the brittle drums, the slightly too thin vocal layering, thanks Joey Moy, but it can still make the minor key vibe mostly work, and it's a song that's basically all about a grubby night where he is warning off the girl in question who wants to hook up with him, but eventually gives in anyway, and he feels legit regretful for stringing her on if just for a moment or just for a night, leaving her with the neon eyes. It's not a particularly nice song, but Morgan Wallen can play the brooding heartbreaker better than most in his lane, and this is one of the better songs off the album showcasing it. But unfortunately, if you're gonna flip the script, number 42, Warning by Morgan Wallen. Her kiss is gonna kill you in the morning. Yeah, this was a dud pretty early. I get why Morgan Wallen might want to play the whole evil seductress card at some point of his career, but did he have to do it opposite a snap and skittering trap beat coupled with gooey synthesizers and backing vocals going ooh that kill any sort of tension? It just feels really goofy, especially as Morgan Wallen's trying to ramp up his nasal intensity, and the haunted feeling that he's trying to evoke with a lot of this atmosphere just does not coalesce with all the rest of the elements. What I think makes it more exasperating is that we don't get any real details about this woman beyond the fact that she might have been in a sorority at some point and sent a whole "you up" text after he got home. So why try to sell all these high stakes when there's so little detail around it? Especially when one of Morgan Wallen's better selling points is that he can bring together detail. I don't know, it fails in creating the mood and then also in telling the story. Next, number 39, Best Friend by Saweetie featuring Doja Cat.
She don't need no nig on the dance floor. She had 2-3 drinks, now she twerking. She throw it out and come back in.
This is one of those cases where I actually heard about the video long before I actually heard the song, so I'm gonna try to keep that in the corner while I try to talk about a team-up that makes really all the sense in the world. It feels like a B-lister team-up, where the expectations are a little more reasonable, and both artists meet it in the middle for a song where they've got some unique energy, and it builds to just a little more than the sum of the parts. Saweetie's a little bit more at ease, she's a little bit more punchy in her delivery. Doja Cat's got a slightly weirder vibe. I mean, she referenced the protect and attack beam, for God's sakes, and it builds into the sort of song I think that a lot of girl best friends, they're gonna have a lot of fun with. Obviously, I don't think it's great, mostly because it can feel a little bit monotone in a lot of its tune, and I think the trap production doesn't give them that much to work with. It feels a bit by the numbers there, but you know what? It is a pretty straightforward girls' night out song that if we were able actually to go outside and party, it'll probably wind up being pretty big if it sticks around that long. As it is, I mean, I don't mind it. I don't mind either artist, especially here. This is fine. Number 32, Sand in My Boots by Morgan.
Tells me she loves Eastern Tennessee. Yeah, but all I brought back with me was some sand in my boots.
So I'll admit, I was surprised when Morgan Wallen used this as the opener to his album, mostly because it's really damn good, arguably the second best song on the album, and it's only growing on me. But between the piano and the pedal steel anchoring that lead melody, and maybe reminding me a little bit too much of Colder Weather by the Zac Brown Band, but again, that song's fantastic. And then as this particular track builds off that gentle organic swell, off the sandy percussion, and how Morgan Wallen tries to convince the girl to hop in his truck and drive back to his hometown. And you know what? What I think works the best here is how much he plays the passenger in a lot of their wild antics at the beach or at the bar, and how he's subtly trying to make a move for her to go along a little further and stick with him. And then he actually fails to stick the landing. It doesn't feel nearly as self-satisfied as so much of bro country can really be, and as such it feels a lot more real. Hell, it was the first moment that I got real hopes the album could be more than what it was. I do think this is pretty great. Unfortunately, what killed a lot of those hopes was number 9, Wasted on You by Morgan Wallen.
All them days I spent wasted on you.
Look, I know trap country is a thing, and Morgan Wallen, to his credit, seems to have a slightly better grasp on the tones and the vibe than someone like Sam Hunt, but his label thinking that this is a good single to push right after a far better song on the album, it drives me out the wall. Let's be real here. Yeah, Morgan Wallen can sell a miserable post-breakup song where he's very clearly not over this person and is in a sour wallow around all of it, and that does kind of match the watery murk of the song, where even a lot of his anger feels smothered out by the alcohol, and that might even work for that sort of bassy trap knock, but man, this is unpleasant to get through. And yes, I get it, that's the point, but there just isn't that much catharsis here. It just is this low, miserable simmer, stewing in your own frustration rather than truly bottoming out or showing any sort of rage, or hell, any sense of growth or self-awareness. He admits that he thought this would be better this time, but let's be real, I'm not sure he really gets why this time is different, and that kind of undercuts the song. Look, I don't know, I get how this works for a very specific mood and vibe, and put this on a playlist with a lot of Drake and Future, and believe it or not, it probably makes sense, but this is not a song that I would want to return to all that much. It's not terrible, but it is pretty far from good. But if you want a better flavor of breakup song, number 1, Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo.
You said forever, now I drive alone past your street.
So, okay, before putting together this episode, I had not heard this song before at all. And look, some of that might have to do with age on my part, because where the kids might go head over heels for something and it winds up huge on TikTok, sometimes it's just gonna slip you by if you're not looking for it. And I gotta be real, I was not hunting for new music coming out of Olivia Rodrigo. I'm not even watching the show from which she's famous. But now that it's here, how is it? Honestly, I think it's fine, but I'm a little bit surprised this is the slow burn piano ballad that seemingly won everybody over, especially with the pretty spare composition and the very obvious Taylor Swift influence on the bridge and the vocal harmonies that doesn't quite match up with the rest of the song, and how it plays in such a very high school moment. I mean, it's a breakup song, because of course it is, and I like how she peels through a lot of the messy layers of it all. That adds some detail in between the insecurity she has towards the ex's current girlfriend, and apparently this is based on some real life events, so I kind of know who both her ex and said girlfriend are, how her friends are tired about her talking about it, and how they also had promised some pretty big steps towards adulthood that she's winding up taking without this ex. And I'll admit, even as a teenager, there's weight to that. And there's some other parts I like here. The song doesn't feel like a wallow. The tempo is a little bit quicker in the percussion. That helps. And Olivia Rodrigo is a pretty damn good singer, especially in her upper register. But I don't know. It feels very high school. And if I want songs that speak to this moment that are even pop piano ballads, I do have a list of them. Don't get me wrong, this is a very good song. I suspect it might just grow on me, but I've heard a lot of songs like this, in this sound and in this style, and I'm not sure that it's an entry that transcends its time-locked setting, or an entry that matches the best in that subgenre. That's all. But yeah, that was our week. Gotta be honest, Morgan Wallen is sweeping everything here, best and worst. Worst, yeah, Warning is by far the most incompetent, it's getting the bottom spot, and Wasted on You and its unpleasantness, it's definitely nailing our dishonorable mention here, and full disclosure, that could well flip in a week or two, especially if Wasted on You actually sticks around. Now, best of the week though, yeah, Neon Eyes is getting honorable mention, while Sand in My Boots is getting the best of the week. I gotta say it, ever since I reviewed the album, the song has grown on me a lot, and while it's no Cover Me Up, it's such an obvious single here that Morgan Wallen's team should really be pushing it ASAP. I mean, I can see the video treatment and everything. But next week might wind up being pretty quiet. I don't know the album bomb that could be coming. We might just have to deal with the fallout. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.